Islam is a guidance for mankind in respect of all aspects. The Holy Quran is the revelation from Almighty God. It was revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was an illiterate, the person who did not know how to read and write. He did not know anything about science, literature, history, law, or any branches of law. And at the age of 40, when he came out of the cave of Hira, the people were amazed to hear the most profound Arabic literature uttered by him, which took the masters of Arabic literature by surprise. The person who did not know anything about embryology, about anything, about that branch of knowledge, started to speak about sperm, ovum, zygote, the early stages of human development which cannot be seen with our naked eye. The person who did not know anything about astronomy, geography, geology, started speaking about the formation of the universe, the nebulae, the stars, the planets, the formation of mountains. He spoke about the darkness under the deep seas, which came to the knowledge of man decades back, when man visited the bottoms of deep seas with the use of modern submarines. And almost everything which he has stated, surprisingly, is in perfect agreement with modern science. The person who did not know anything about law gave us the eternal principles of human rights and law. He spoke about equality of man, equality before law, right to life and freedom of faith, right to defend one's own life and property, right to orphans, right to women, right to widows, right to oppressed. And all these principles have been declared as eternal law in 1948 by United Nations in its Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The person who did not know anything about history spoke about cities that were buried centuries back before his birth, and few decades back. Through satellites, certain indications have been revealed. The Prophet told the world that the body of the cruel dictator Pharaoh has been preserved by Almighty Allah as a sign for future generations of mankind. And few decades back, the mummified body of Ramses II, the contemporary of Prophet Moses alayhi salam, was identified by archaeologists. And what should we understand from these things? Are these the words of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or are these words the words of Almighty Allah? And the person who told us these words says, these are not my words, these are the words of Almighty Allah. Why should we doubt him? When he says that these are the words of Allah, when even the greatest scientists, the greatest historians, the greatest economists of those times cannot say these things, when even his enemies declare that he is Al-Amin, the trustworthy, who does not lie and who had never lied. Yes, the Quran is the final revelation from Almighty Allah. وَإِنَّهُ لَتَنْزِيلُ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. If we want real peace of mind, if we want to overcome mental depression and weakness, then we have to follow the principles of Islam. Islam opposes all types of asceticism, because Islam considers man as human beings with likes and dislikes, aspirations and hopes, motives and intentions. That is why the Quran says that man has got an obligation towards him, to the Creator and to himself, towards his wife and kids, towards his parents and relatives, towards the fellow beings and nature. And unless and until a person discharges all these obligations, you cannot call him a successful person. You cannot judge the success of a person by the success of a moment, or the victory of an hour, or the result of a year. You have to look and evaluate his life as a whole. You must stand up where you can see that man treads his entire path that leads from cradle to grave. And if he is a failure as a father, failure as a brother, failure as a husband, failure as a son, failure as a relative, failure as a friend, failure as a fellow being, then he is a failure before Almighty Allah, and he is a failure in this world and in the world hereafter. We have to show gratitude towards Allah. Then if we obey Allah, we get real happiness in this world. The famous writer R.V.C. Bodley, he got depressed after seeing the bloodbath in the Second World War, and he wanted to commit suicide. Accidentally, he met Ted Lawrence, the famous Lawrence of Arabia, who participated in the First World War. Ted Lawrence advised Bodley to spend some time in Arabia. Those days, the Arabs were innocent nomad peoples. They did not possess expensive cars or supersonic jets. They did not have refinery, oil field, or supermarkets. Their greatest wealth were cattle and sheep. One day when Bodley was on move with a rich Arab, a strong sandstorm struck the area. Bodley was frightened, but the Arab was cool. Bodley apprehended imminent death, but to his surprise, the Arab was calm. The Arab lost all his camels and sheep. Still, he was patient. So after the storm subsided, Bodley asked the Arab, "Are you not frightened about death? Are you not sad about the loss of your wealth?" The Arab smiled and said, "Allah gave me this wealth, and if Allah takes it back, why should I be sad? Allah gave me this life, and if Allah takes my life back, why should I be frightened?" This faith of the Arab transformed Bodley, and he could overcome depression. If the richest person in this whole world, Bill Gates, approaches you and gives you an offer, "I am ready to give you my entire wealth, my supersonic jets, my companies, my expensive cars, and you will be happy." But he makes a request. Not a request, a command in return. "In return, I want one thing from you." And you ask, what is that? Because you are expecting his entire wealth, the entire wealth of the richest person on the face of the earth. And you ask him, what is that? He says, your eyesight. Will you give it? So if you place the entire wealth of the richest person on the face of the globe at one side, and one among your innumerable blessings that Allah has given to you on the other, which one will you prefer? Making wealth, do not think that you will be successful. The Emperor Alexander, before his death, at his deathbed, told his dear friend, "When I die, make 2 holes in my coffin and put my both hands outside. Let the whole world see the Emperor Alexander, who had amassed wealth that no man could imagine. Emperor Alexander, who has obtained victories that no man could dream of. Emperor Alexander, who had earned envy of emperors and rulers, is leaving this world with empty hands. We cannot take our expensive automobiles. We cannot take our mansions. We cannot take our followers. We cannot take our fame to the other world except the faith and good deeds. So understand that. Realize that. And try to be true believers.